Fronto Max is an exterior version of the popular slats on the market, an innovative solution for facades and ceilings. Thanks to the modern shape of the profile and specially designed joints, we were able to create an original, three-dimensional panel that offers many design possibilities. The panels were made using the innovative Max 3 technology, which resulted in a profile that is extremely resistant to mechanical damage and large temperature fluctuations. The panels are available with wood-like decors and wood-like decors with dark joints, which further emphasize the 3D effect on the wall. For proper installation, you will need basic tools such as a spirit level, tape measure, square, scissors, hammer, knife, pencil, drill and power tools such as a drill driver and chop saw. For sawing, a saw blade designed for cutting aluminium will be best. Panels can be cut with a chop saw, circular saw or angle grinder. Depending on the structure on which the installation will be carried out, you will need screws for wood or metal. Detailed installation instructions, available in each package and on the website, will be an indispensable aid. The first step in facade installation is the preparation of the substructure. This is a labor-intensive operation that takes up 70% to 80% of the total installation time. However, a correctly executed substructure guarantees the correct completion of the facade and an excellent end result. The substructure also allows for adequate air circulation between the wall and the facade. For this purpose, the substructure must be installed at a height of at least 50 mm from ground level, with at least 20 mm of space left at the top edge of the wall. The same values should be maintained for the installation of trims and panels. For the substructure, you can use wooden battens or metal profiles. The spacing between the battens or profiles to which the panels will be directly fixed should be a maximum of 40 cm from center to center of the batten or profile. To prepare a wooden frame, use wooden battens, which should be made of good quality wood, not free, impregnated, and with a moisture content of 15 to 17%. The battens should have dimensions of at least 30 by 22 mm. Use 35 mm screws for wood to fix the panels to the wooden substructure. First, install the horizontal battens along the length of the building, spacing them according to the type of insulation used. Then fill the space between the battens with insulating material and place the vapor barrier membrane on top. If you plan to install the panels horizontally, the next step is to install the vertical battens, which will be the base for installing the panels and provide ventilation space between the wall and the panels. Install them at a maximum distance of 40 cm from the center to the center of the batten. If you plan to install the panels vertically, the vertical battens installed on the insulation layer may have a spacing of more than 40 cm, as the horizontal battens, which will serve as a base for the installation of the panels, with a spacing of no more than 40 cm, will be fixed to them. To prepare a metal frame, use metal profiles, e.g. the CD100 with a height of 48 mm or CD60 with a height of 27 mm. When installing horizontally, the preparation of the metal frame starts with the fastening of the fastening hooks, which enable the vertical installation of the metal profiles to the wall with a maximum distance of 40 cm from the center to the center of the profile. Next, apply thermal insulation to the attached hook and puncture it. A vapor barrier membrane is applied to the thermal insulation, and then metal profiles are attached to the fastening hooks, which will serve as a base for installing the panels horizontally and at the same time ensure adequate ventilation between the wall and the panels. The excess hook length should be bent, with the ends slightly entering the insulation so that it adheres properly to the wall. If you plan to install the panels vertically, a layer of profiles laid horizontally with a maximum distance of 40 cm between them must be installed on top of the vertical profiles, which in this case can be spaced more than 40 cm apart. When installing the panels on a wall insulated with expanded polystyrene foam and bonded with adhesive with an embedded mesh, it is necessary to fix the substructure battens with dedicated mounting anchors, such as Hilti HRD-UGT. The installation of the Fronto Max panels is made easier by a series of matching trims. First of all, we have the SV11 starting trim, needed to start the horizontal installation. Then the corners, the SVP12 outer corner, which can be used for panels installed both vertically and horizontally, and for finishing window and door openings. The Mini SVP 12.5 outer corner is a more subtle alternative to the SVP 12 trim, and can also be used for outer corners in both vertical and horizontal installation. We also have the SVP 12V outer corner for vertical installation dedicated exclusively to panels installed vertically. This corner is flush with the surface of the panels, which is why it must be placed inside the SVP 15 trims fitted horizontally on the lower and upper edge of the wall. The SVP 14N trim is used with the SVP 19 facade trim to finish off window and door openings and to reinforce cut panel edges. The SVPJ trim is very commonly used for finishing the edges at the top and side of the wall, as well as in the inner corners or as a starting trim for vertical installation. The SVP18 connector is used to join panels installed horizontally lengthwise. The SVP 16.5 drip edge trim is used to channel water away from the building wall and, in combination with the SVP 15 trim, makes it possible to join panels installed vertically height-wise. The SVP 19 large facade trim, in combination with the SVP 14 trim, is used to finish off window and door openings and to neatly cover substructures. The SV17 small facade trim has similar uses to the SVP19 large facade trim. Fronto Max is designed to be used as a finish for a ventilated facade. A ventilated facade requires open airflow between the wall and the facade product, which is why it is necessary to provide an air inlet and outlet at the bottom and at the top of the wall. Ensure that there is at least 50 millimeters between ground level and the bottom edge of the panels, and a minimum of 20 millimeters at the top edge of the wall. A ventilation gap between the panels and the facade of at least 22 millimeters is necessary, depending on the altitude and latitude, as indicated in detail in the installation instructions. The need for adequate expansion joints is related to the expansion and contraction of the panels under the influence of the ambient temperature. The size of the joint depends on the ambient conditions and the temperature during the installation. These values are precisely defined in the installation instructions available on the website. A so-called fixing point is only used when the panels are installed vertically to stabilize the direction of contraction and expansion due to the ambient temperature. For the fixing point, it is best to choose the second batten from the top or the middle batten. This will prevent the panel from moving uncontrollably. Depending on where on the batten the mounting hole is, the following fixing methods are possible. At the edges of the mounting hole, between the mounting holes, or at the edges of adjacent mounting holes. The panel is fixed by screwing the screws into the mounting holes. Try to place the screws in the middle of the mounting holes and do not tighten them all the way, leaving slack for the panel to move. For vertical installation, the Fronto Max panels are fixed to horizontal profiles, or, as in our case, to wooden substructure battens. Before starting to install the panels, level and screw on the trims. A perforated profile can be installed at the bottom of the substructure to protect the wall against insects and pests, and to ensure proper air circulation. The SV11 starting trim at the bottom of the wall is not used for vertical installation. This is replaced by the SVP15 trim, in which several holes can be drilled for water drainage. The panels should be installed from left to right. Measure the required length of the panel, remembering to keep a suitable expansion joint in the trims. Cut the first panel to length and slide it into the SVP15 trims on the side at the top and at the bottom of the wall. Level and then fix the panel with 2 screws on the second batten from the top. On the other battens, fasten the screws as standard in the middle of the mounting holes and do not tighten them all the way. Each successive panel is hooked over the lock of the previous one, which is made easier by the click lock, and also fixed on the second batten from the top. The subsequent panels are fixed in the same way. When using the SVP12V outer corner, installation begins by hooking the panels into the locks in the trim. The panels are then screwed to the substructure battens. The last panel often needs trimming. If this is the case, cut to the required width, hook into the lock of the penultimate panel. If, as in our case, there is a need to support the cut edge, use the previously cut panel lock or the SVP14 trim for this purpose. As an option, you can also make additional perforation holes along the trimmed edge of the last panel to act as hooks, preventing the panel from falling out of the trim. For horizontal installation, the Fronto Max panels are fixed to vertically laid battens, or, as in this case, to metal substructure profiles. The actual installation of the slats starts with the leveling and fixing of the vertical trims. A perforated profile can be installed at the bottom of the substructure to protect the wall against insects and pests and to ensure proper air circulation. Next, install the SV11 starting trim needed to install the panels horizontally. All the trims must be accurately leveled using a spirit level to ensure that the panels are installed correctly. When determining the length to which the panels must be cut, remember to maintain the correct expansion gap in the trims. The panels should be installed from the bottom up. The first panel is clipped into the starting trim and slid into the vertical trims. It is very important that the panel can move in the trims. To ensure this, position it more or less in the middle, i.e., with the same expansion gap on both sides. Then fasten the panel with screws. Try to place the screws in the middle of the mounting hole and do not tighten them to allow the panel to move. The subsequent panels are clipped into the lock of the preceding panel. The panel is correctly installed when you hear the distinctive click of the lock. Thanks to the click locks, once assembled, the panel is firmly in place and will not fall down. This allows you to reach freely for tools and install the panel without additional assistance. Each subsequent panel is installed in the same way. The slats installed horizontally are joined lengthwise using the SVP18 connector. Joining with this trim will be necessary for wall lengths of more than 3 meters. The joint location must be planned before installation and the connector trim fixed on a double or, if necessary, triple batten. The last panel often does not fit in its entirety. Therefore, you must measure the distance between the edge of the lock and the inside of the trim pocket and cut it to height accordingly. Use the cut-off lock as a support and place it in the SVP15 trim. You can use 1 or 2 J trims in the inner corner. When using only one SVP15 trim, remember to leave space on the other wall of the corner so that the panel can be inserted there. When using 2 SVP15 trims, fix them to both sides of the corner. In order to effectively protect the inner corner from moisture, it is best to use waterproof film as additional protection. To finish the window and door recesses, it is best to use the dedicated SVP19 large facade trim and the SVP14 end trim. At the inner and outer edges of the recess, install the battens or profiles to which the trim will be fixed. Inside the recess at the junction between the battens and the window or door frame, on both sides and at the top, install the SVP14 trim. The trim must be installed so that its pockets connect behind it. The facade trim must be measured and cut so that it fits the dimensions of the opening and proper drainage is ensured, as described in the installation instructions. The trim sections prepared in this way are joined together and inserted into the window opening. The ends of the SVP19 trim sections are inserted into the SVP14 trim. Alternatively, the SVP12 outer corner and the SVP15 universal trim can be used. Inside the recess, at the junction between the battens and the frame of the window or door, on both sides and at the top, install the SVP15 trim. The SVP12 outer corner is fitted to the outer edge of the recess. The outer corner sections need to be prepared so that water can flow into the drainage channels. The exact method of sizing and cutting the trim is shown in the installation instructions. This is what correctly cut corners should look like. They are connected in such a way that water can drain away from the facade. The prepared trims are attached to the substructure at the outer edge of the recess. Once they have been secured, it is enough to place the panels cut to length in the pockets of the trims. When determining the length of the sections, remember about the expansion joints. Panels installed vertically are joined with the help of the SVP 16.5 drip edge trim and the SVP 15J trim. To do this, first install a drip edge trim over the top edge of the vertically installed panels, and then above it install a J trim, which will serve as a starting trim for the next row of panels. Water drainage holes can be pre-drilled in the J trim. The joint location should be planned before installation, and the substructure battens installed at the appropriate point. For an aesthetically pleasing finish to the installation and to cover the substructure, the SVP19 facade trim can be used in combination with the SVP14N trim. Fronto Max slats can be installed in the ceiling area, for example under a balcony or terrace roof. For this installation, a substructure with a maximum of 40 cm spacing between wooden battens or metal profiles from center to center is required. It is essential that the substructure is suitably level. Make sure that the right and left edge battens and the wall side battens are spaced away from the edge, depending on the type of installation on adjacent walls. This will enable the panels to be properly secured. If across the recess, then install the profiles, battens as for vertical installation. Where there is a need for edge finishing, SVP15 trims should be used. It is possible to install lighting in the ceiling-mounted panels, but this should be planned during the substructure preparation stage. Electrical cables must be routed to the selected locations and holes drilled in the panels. The panels should be cut to length, with the expansion joints in the trims. Insert the first panel into the trims and screw it to the substructure so that it can move. Each subsequent panel is installed in the same way. Feed the cables for the lights through the pre-drilled holes. The last panel should be cut to the required width, inserted into the trims and clicked into the lock. Finally, install the lights in the panels. After screwing the panels onto the ceiling, install the panels on the walls. In order to obtain a smooth transition from the ceiling to the wall, the panels on the wall have to be fitted in such a way that the joints meet in the same place. Once the installation is complete, it is a good idea to spray the finished facade with an anti-static agent and remove any dirt and dust. If necessary, the Fronto Max panel facade can be cleaned with a detergent solution below 40 degrees Celsius and washed with water after cleaning. Do not use solvents or aggressive or corrosive liquids for cleaning. The installation rules shown in this video also apply to Max 3 SXP05 panels. This video shows general rules and instructions for installation. Carefully read the detailed installation instructions included in the packaging and on the website before starting the installation. Installing the product contrary to the instructions may invalidate the warranty.